Visiting saga sites can be an incredibly powerful experience, and if you read the diaries of people like William Morris, who came to Iceland in the 19th century, specifically to look at saga sites, already familiar with sagas and their narratives, you find the kind of emotional effect that visiting these places has on these individuals. It's quite, it's an extremely powerful experience. Sort of an immersive experience, and for these people in the 19th century and still today, the drama of the narratives can be greatly intensified, and you're sort of pulled into the action. I think visiting specific saga areas and places named in the sagas can also be a very interesting exercise in thinking about the narrative dynamics of any single saga or events that are described in a saga. It helps you understand, for example, you get a better sense of the scale of the landscape across and around which the action is playing. You get a sense of the relative positioning of places, whether places are very close together or far apart, and this in turn can kind of help you to appreciate the tensions that are in the narratives. There's an excellent example of this in Gisla Saga, actually, where the saga describes two murders that take place in two farms in a valley, and when you go to visit that valley, you see how small and sort of contained that valley is, and that kind of increases the drama and the tension, the sense of what is at play or what's at stake in that narrative. Well, visiting saga sites also, I think, can be an extremely interesting thing to do, because it gives one an insight into how these stories have been transmitted over a period of many hundreds of years. So on the one hand, of course, we have the texts of the sagas in the parchment and the paper manuscripts, and on the other hand, the landscape very much, and place names were a vehicle which was important to transmitting these stories. So I think people would have been telling or sort of thinking about saga events and characters, retelling stories physically in the landscape, with place names perhaps prompting recall or memory of certain events in the sagas or characters. And so if you have the opportunity to explore saga sites in person, you can kind of get a sense for how the landscape was involved in transmitting these stories, and also indeed get a feel for all of the other places in the landscape, place names, whether they're stones or kind of local traditions, which kind of collected around the sagas and around saga events or saga characters. Place names that maybe aren't written down in the texts themselves, but the saga characters and events live a life beyond the manuscript page, and so sort of researching or exploring saga sites on the ground can help you get a sense of how these stories lived outside of the domestic environment.